Alright, so in the whiteboard we discussed about how the processes are being created. Now let me prove it to you. So let's go step by step. At the start we wrote the command npm start. So what the shell process does is that it goes to its path variables and it tries to find an executable file named npm. This is that file. Now it sees that this file needs to be executed in a node environment. So it creates a new process which will execute this file in the node environment. Now this same process is gonna basically execute this file, and then it's gonna call this, and then it goes here and it executes all these files over here until it reaches this file called index.js, where it creates a new process. So what's happening in all those other files? We are going to discuss that in detail in the coding section. But for now, what you need to remember is that what's going on is that in all those files, the process is receiving the information from the previous process, like what the command was. Okay, it was npm start, fine, and then it converts it to npm run start. Then it executes the code relevant for the run command. It gets the current working directory, it gets the package.json file and maps scripts.start to react scripts start. It sets the path variables for the new process and makes sure to include in it the node modules folder which contains react scripts. So then we create this new process and we pass to it all the relevant stuff within these three parameters, and this new process will execute react scripts start. So when this new process executes react scripts start, it doesn't know what to do with react scripts. It goes to the path variables, it finds the relevant node modules folder, it goes to the react scripts file, and then it creates a new process and includes in it the node binary, and that new node process will execute this code, and it's going to create another new process which will run the file start.js. This start.js file is in the scripts folder right here. So you can see inside scripts we have start.js. So inside scripts we have build, eject, test. So if you wrote react scripts build, it would execute this file, but right now it's going to execute start.js. And over here we create another new process, and so our new process here is going to execute this part of the code where we load webpack dev server, ESLint, Babel, etc. Now in every file, as you can see, I've added some custom code where I've included the process ID and the parent process ID right here in every file. And over here you can see I've included over here, because the new process is being created, I've included the child process ID as well. And then I've included the process ID in React scripts. And I'll also just change the title of the process so it's more readable to us. And also I've included the process ID here and the title. Okay, now I'll show you the console logs. I'm going to type npm start, and as you can see right here, oh, just a moment. So as you can see, the console logs disappeared. So to make sure the console logs don't disappear, I'll just write this command. That's it. It makes sure the console logs are available. We can see them and the text is not cleared. So I'm going to write this command right here. And now we can see the console logs. So as you can see, this is the executable. This is the file that the shell process finds in its path variable, and it creates a new process, a new node process to execute this file. And we can see that over here. So in this file, the node process has the process ID 11650 and the parent process ID of the shell process is 10. Now this node process is going to execute the rest of the functions over here, and you can see that no new process is being created. 11.11650 is executing all of that code. They have the same parent ID until we reach the function promise spawn. Inside that function, we create the new process. And you can see the current process ID matches here, but now we have created a new process, and that's its process ID is 11662, and the parent ID of this process ID is 10. So now this new process ID is going to execute React script start. It doesn't know what to do with React scripts. It's going to go to the path variables, find node modules, find React scripts file, create a new process, and that new process will execute React scripts file, which is precisely what happens here. In React scripts file, as you can see, the current process ID is different because this is the new process being created, and it is the child process of this one, because as you can see the parent process ID matches. So this process is then gonna create a new process which will execute start.js, and as you can see this process is the parent of the new process, and that new process is executing start.js. So the logs right here prove what I was explaining in the whiteboard about how the processes are being created. To show a better view, I will also use something called htop. So htop is an interactive terminal where you can see the processes better visually. So if you just type htop, you're gonna get all the processes. So my computer right now is executing different tasks. So it's gonna show all the processes. So to only show the relevant processes, I will write this piece of code right here. So all you need to understand is that it will show all the processes which are the child of process 10. And process 10 is the process which received the command from the terminal npm start. So when I run this, now you can see. So the text in white are the processes, and the text in green are the threads being executed in that process. So the process basically breaks down into multiple threads that are being executed. For now, I'm going to hide the threads so we can just focus on the processes. If I go here, display options, hide process threads, and now we just see the processes. First, you need to ignore this because we wrote npm start cat, so it just creates a process for that, not relevant to us. Now let's see. Okay, so, all right, so our first process is bash. This is basically the shell process which receives the command npm start. When it receives the command npm start, it doesn't know what to do with npm, so it goes to the environment variables, path environment variables, and over there it finds a file, an executable called npm. It goes to that file, creates a new file which will and includes in it the node binary, and that it creates a new process and includes in it the node binary, and that new process will basically execute the npm file, and this is the new process. It's called npm start. So this process does all the job of receiving the commands from the previous process, getting the package.json file, setting the path for the new process, mapping scripts.start to React script start. It does all that and creates the new process which executes React script start. So now when this new process executes React script start, it does not know what to do with React scripts. So it goes to its path variables, and over there it finds the node modules, and inside node modules it finds React scripts, and then it creates a new node process which will execute React scripts. This is that node process which executes React scripts. This title right here, execute React scripts process, is the custom name I added. So this new process will create another process which is going to execute start.js. And this start.js process will then basically run webpack, webpack dev server, ESLint, Babel, etc. And this is basically what happens underneath the hood.